Alright guys, so for this video I have the original Xbox One Elite controller, Series 1 you could call it, right here. And this right here, just picked it up about 30 minutes ago. This is the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller. So we're going to see the differences between these two. I'll show you all the differences and I am excited to get this open. So let's get right into it. Suppose we don't need scissors to tear into plastic. Whoa, look at that case, just first off, oh my goodness. Isn't that a beauty? Holy crap, alright. Alright guys, so at this point in the video, I actually kept on going and reviewing my initial impressions of the controller, and I quickly realized that the audio was kind of scuffed as I was talking to the right of my phone that is recording this. So I changed up the positioning and here we are with this. I also thought that concept of the video was kind of boring. Literally everybody does reviews and then nothing's really different. So what I did instead, this is a day later from the starting of that unboxing video, and I've gotten extensive usage of these two controllers now, especially the new one, and so I can now provide you guys with a lot of things that I have not seen really anyone share, and I think it's going to be very beneficial in letting you guys know if you want to really purchase this or not. So with that said, I'm still going to use the old Elite controller to kind of portray those differences and get that point across. So with that said, let's get right into it. Alright, so right off the bat, the first noticeable difference that I felt upon using these two controllers is this one has the ripples, right? And this one is more smooth. It's like a matte finish. You would assume that this one having ripples and like a grip effect would be more tacky, but it's actually not. To my surprise, this one actually held my hand a lot. Like when I say a lot, I'm talking like out of a 10 of holding my hand, this one was a 10 and this one was like a 5. This one, you don't lose grip when you're holding it, right? Like it's locked in. This one, however, it slips, especially if you have any kind of oils on your hand is gonna slip right out of this. I'm not really sure why they chose to do that. It definitely looks cooler this way, but as far as functionality goes, this one is actually worse than the old one. Also, just so you know, this is a Kontrolfreak right here that I have on this. If you were wondering what that was, it's just this right here. Now another huge difference, and this is something that you definitely want to pay attention to, is the fact that, one, I'll start with just the paddle size difference. You can see that the paddles on the old one are actually a lot longer than the paddles on the new one, the Series 2. So this actually, I love the feeling of the new paddles. On the old controller, you have a lot less room to grip. If I'm just resting my fingers here, like this paddle is always touching my ring finger. And that is just very annoying in my opinion. I always thought that they needed to be a lot shorter, and so now that they have done that, I can confidently say that these feel a lot better. There is so much more room to grip the controller, and I love that feeling. It's literally the perfect length. They nailed the length with this one. What's even more important, and another thing that I don't see really anyone talking about for some reason, is that these paddles are way stiffer than these paddles. Okay, I'll turn on the music so they can hear this, right? I mean, I'm literally, you gotta press these. I'm not lying. You need to really press these in to get them to register. But when it comes to the old one, I mean, I don't even know if you guys can hear that or not. Very, very loose, very, very stiff. Now, as far as which one's better, this one is actually better. It's a little weird to get used to, but after going in and playing in some games and whatnot, in terms of knowing what buttons you're actually pressing and not accidentally pressing paddles, this one is your go-to. And I would certainly rate the paddles way better on the new controller compared to the old one. Now, another key difference here is actually pressing in the thumbsticks. So it's actually way easier to press these in. So looser thumbstick clicking on the new one compared to the old one. You guys can probably hear that's way louder. Now if we move on to the triggers here, as you guys can see, this one has ripples on the LT and RT buttons here. Really, I don't notice these too much whenever I'm playing. You can see that this one's more smooth on the old one. They both do the job. I mean, again, it's kind of like the grips. I almost feel like my fingers slide off of these, and it might be because my hands are oily, but I don't think so because I just washed them. This is not something that really bothers me so much as the grip, so this is just something to note. Moving on to the bumpers here, you can hear When you press those in, it's very, again, kind of like the paddles, needs a lot of pressure. The bumpers, literally no pressure required at all. So in my opinion, bumpers are better on these because it requires more pressure. They're more stiff. These are more loose. And in my opinion, I don't really like that too much. On the old controller, you only have 2 settings for the trigger hairs. You have one that has no trigger stop, and then you have trigger stops activated. So you have 2 settings here. On this one, on the new one, you actually have 3 settings, right? I'm gonna be using on the right here, the second setting, and comparing that to on the right here again, the only trigger stop on this one. But yeah, if you ask me, comparing those two, those are the same. I could be wrong about that. I feel like maybe this one is going in a little bit further, so it's not quite at this one, but honestly, they look pretty identical. What I do notice is that upon going even further down to the last trigger stop, the 3rd tier on this one, compared to the old controller, this one definitely stays up more. So what I'm trying to get at here is that the new controller is going to give you a taller trigger stop, so you don't have to press it in as much as you would with the max tier trigger stop on the old controller. So again, something good to note that I don't really see a lot of people talking about. Now, as far as the components go that come with these controllers, this thing is the same for both of them, so I'm not even gonna bother showing that. However, the differences comes in play with all the thumbstick designs. So on the old one, you have 2 tall original Xbox One thumbsticks, and then you have 2 medium-sized dome thumbsticks, right? So these are slightly shorter than the tall ones here, but they are a little bit longer than the small ones, the original small ones that come with the Xbox One controller. Now, when it comes to the new Elite Series 2, you only get 1 tall thumbstick. They studied what people used on the old one and kind of reflected that in the new one, so people were only using 1 tall. So I really like that they did that, by the way. And then you get 2 original Xbox 360 thumbsticks. So what's important to know about these are they're actually a little bit longer than the small. So I'll actually show you the normal Xbox One Elite Series 2. It's a little bit taller than that. So these are like the new medium, and they are the, again, 360 design. I really like these a lot. Now, when it comes to the dome is a small one compared to the medium-sized dome of the old. It's also a little bit wider. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's like a bit greater diameter on this one. Now, when it comes to the design itself, this one is more smooth, and this one has now a design on it that kind of grips your thumb as you're using it. I think it is actually quite tacky, not even on a controller, so I would assume that's pretty good on the actual controller itself. Now, what's extremely interesting, and again, I don't see a lot of people talking about this, is the fact that you cannot exchange the thumbsticks from the old to the new, right? So if I try to use a old piece here on the new Xbox One Elite Series 2 controller, it doesn't work. As you can see, it kind of just floats on top and you can't press it down. I was extremely disappointed about this, to be quite honest, but I mean, it is what it is. You can't really complain about it too much because it's the new model and you would kind of expect them to do that. However, at the same time, what I find interesting is that you can use the old paddles here. So let me take a paddle off here and take a paddle off of here. You can use the old, this is an old paddle. You can use that on the new controller. So why can you use the paddles on the new controller but not the old thumbsticks on the new controller? I don't know. Now I'll get to the tightening tool here in a second, but first, while we have the cases open, as you can see, both of them are very similar. They have this flap here that you can store cords in, I guess, and whatnot, but the only difference is that on the new one, you have this flap right here that you can actually charge your controller. So all you have to do, even with the paddles on there, you can lock it in, and it is magnetic, so it has a significant hold on it. So I actually have to put a good amount of pressure to take it off, but what you can do is you can set it on there, you can close it, you can do whatever you want, and then in the back here, you can lift this flap up right here, and if I can get the light in there for you, you can see that a cord goes in there, the same cord that plugs into your Xbox One or PC. You plug that in and you can charge your controller. All right, so now back to our normal setup. You can see both controllers here. So the main difference is that you now have a tightening ability. So in here, I'll show you guys. A lot of people don't actually show you what it looks like. You can see that there's like a plus sign in there. And what this tool does is it goes right in there. It doesn't really matter which way you press it, but it kind of locks in, and then you turn it to the left, so counterclockwise to loosen. Each setting, it kind of locks, not very strong lock, but it does lock. So right now, like, that is the loosest. You can see that the metal piece actually came up. You can see that plus sign a lot more now. This is the loosest setting. I can move it to the right one clockwise. And you can see that that metal piece went down some. Then I can do it again. And this is now even tighter. You can see that the metal piece went down even further. So me personally, I use the tightest setting, but I will say that it doesn't feel as tight as what you would expect the tightest setting to feel like. It is what it is. I wish it was a little bit tighter is what I'm trying to say, but at the same time, I am glad, very glad that we have that setting, and I do recommend you tighten it up if you're playing any kind of shooter. So before we get into the online, the Xbox difference in the interfaces between these two controllers, I want to show you guys the difference in the cords. So this one is not an oval shape. It's not going to focus, but this one is an oval shape. So just know that these are different cords and you have to have a different one. So before we get into the difference in the mapping, I'm actually gonna cut to my Elgato view and a proper mic so that you guys can hear that better and see that better. But what I want you guys to see right now is the difference in vibration. It feels like I'm breaking the controller whenever I have the top left trigger and right trigger on. It feels really bad. So let me just demonstrate that for you. It sounds like something's about to explode in there, and it sounds like it's about to break. I mean, it just does not feel good at all. Now, when it comes to the bottom ones, it's not the same scenario. They feel kind of the same as before. They shake the whole controller reasonably. And so, yeah, for that reason, I don't really like it too much, so I keep it lower. Now, let me cut to the old one and show you how that one felt. Now, I've actually never used this interface, but doing that, it feels horrible at the beginning, and then after like midway, it feels like normal vibration should. Whereas the old one, it feels bad the entire way, in my opinion. Again, the main bottom ones here, they feel completely fine. So yeah, there's that. So now at this point, we're gonna cut over to what the Elgato sees and get that point of view, and as well as the other mics. I'm gonna sound a little bit different. But yeah, here we go. All right, guys, so now we're on the interface, and pretty much the only noticeable difference between these two features here is the fact that we have 3 profiles instead of 2 on the old one. So this one is now the new one. We have 3 profiles, and what we can do with this is when we edit it, this screen is different from the old and new. This one looks more complicated at first, but it's actually very, very simple to understand. You simply go to whatever button you want. Let's say Y, and as you can see, it permanently shows Y button at the top. And so what do I want the Y button to do? Let's say I want it to actually be my left bumper for whatever reason, then I can do that. And then this is the coolest feature that has been added. So I can make any button a shift button. If I do that, then what's gonna happen is now my Y is only shift button, right? Now let me get that off of there. Basically, I have to hold down my shift button, wherever that is, and then that gives me a whole second set of presets, basically giving me twice the amount of combinations, right? So for example, I'll say that my primary Y button function is just to do Y button, right? So Y is Y. But let's say I'm holding down my shift, then Y all of a sudden will be B. So obviously there's an endless amount of possibilities that I can have with that, and I'm super excited to play around with that shift button. But one thing I noticed is that, let's say I want to hold down the shift key, I can actually have 2 different sensitivities for my thumbsticks, right? So I can be holding down my shift, and that gives me a different sensitivity curve. So that's super awesome, and you can have the exact same thing on the right stick, obviously. Now as far as triggers go, you only have 1 preset, obviously, because that's more mechanical. It's not like a setting inside the controller. Vibration, again, 1 preset, and then the brightness. Who cares about that? So if I had to compare these two neck and neck, I would still go with the new controller despite the fact that the grips are not too tacky. The main reason is because of the paddle size, way better, the paddle stiffness, way better, and the ability to tighten up your thumbsticks. It's such a significant upgrade for that reason. Also, the fact that I just remembered about this one, the fact that you can have a shift key is, I think, super cool on this one. That allows you to have twice as many button combinations, so that's pretty cool. You go from, I think, 14 usable ones in Fortnite to like 28. So that's pretty nice. I haven't been able to find out a way to actually use that, but hopefully I will in the future. Is it worth the upgrade? To each their own. In my opinion, it is. And it also allows me to make these videos for you so that you guys can make a better purchase. So I feel a little bit better about purchasing it because I'm not just using it for gaming, I'm using it for videos as well. So with that said, guys, hopefully that was informative and it lets you know which one you want to buy, if you want to upgrade, if you don't. So yeah, with that said, let me know if there's any questions down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.